What is going on, everybody? It's me, Steve Fall. I'm here with the most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock. How you doing today?
I'm good. Yourself?
I am doing great, and we are close to Wrestlemania season. It's upon us. And
Right.
you've had so many memories involving Wrestlemania, but I need to talk about current events with you right now. So many rumors are running rampant. Are you going to be inducted into the WWE 2025 class Hall of Fame?
Not to my knowledge. I know I went last year actually to the Wrestlemania, to that Hall of Fame. But yeah, no, I haven't heard anything after that event. So yeah, again, like I said, people people keep bringing it up, and I'm just like, I don't have control over that. I don't know when or what they're doing or when they're going to do it. So I just kind of, like you said, you just asked it and it's back in my head again. I was like, yeah, no, nobody's called me.
So where do you think all those rumors come from? Because lots of wrestling websites keep bringing it up, like, oh, there's discussion amongst people in the WWE that Ken Shamrock's going in this year. Like, where do you think those rumors come from then?
I don't know. Quite frankly, I really don't think much of it until somebody brings it up, and then I'm like, yeah, no, nobody's talked to me about it. The only time that was ever thought about was when I was invited to the last year's WrestleMania and their Hall of Fame inductions. So other than that, I've not spoken a word of it. I haven't heard anything, nor has anybody talked to me or me them.
Interesting. Yeah, because I can't escape Ken Shamrock Hall of Fame rumors. And no matter where you look, they're there, because even this year, they're inducting a match into the Hall of Fame, the Immortal Moment. And it's the match that you were involved with as the enforcer. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret the Hitman Hart, WrestleMania 13. So that's why more rumors, I think, appear. We're like, well, if Bret and Austin are going in with this match, Ken Shamrock was the enforcer. Does that mean he's also going to be there that weekend? So no one's talked to you about any of this, right?
No, again, like I said, this is news to me. I don't, like I said, I don't think much of it until someone asks me, and then I'm kind of like, oh yeah, no, but nobody's talked to me, nothing. So I'm happy for him. I'm really happy for them because I thought it was a great match. I was in it. I saw it. It was a great match.
You had the best seat in the house. You were
Yes. Yeah.
you were this close. What does that match, you think, mean to personally for you in general, and of course wrestling fans?
Well, for me, it really helped me get comfortable because, like I said, I was just going back into it after years and years of being out of the ring. Being able to go in there and work that match and just watch those guys on how they performed, it was amazing. And I would say for wrestling, I think it changed the direction of, forgive my language, but kind of the candy ass kind of wrestling matches that people sometimes put on. It really inducted into that kind of that attitude era. With me coming from that real world of fighting, those guys going in there and putting on what we really thought was a real fight between those two, and they really went after one another. So it was ranked right up there with, actually not even ranked. I just think it was one of the best matches ever for that era to be inducted in from that match. It literally ran us right into the Attitude Era.
It's so true. It's so true. So you will not be in attendance in your cutoff referee sleeve shirt.
No, not to my knowledge. And like I said, it's just right around the corner. So I just don't think it's happening.
And then, one more question about that weekend then. So you personally will not be in Las Vegas during WrestleMania week because of there's WrestleCon, there's wrestling events, there's signings, it's everywhere. Are you booked for anything?
No, not going to be in Vegas on that weekend. In fact, I've got other things that I'm actually doing. I didn't realize it was even that weekend until, like I said, you just brought it up. But yeah, no, unfortunately, that didn't happen. So we'll see. We'll just wait and see. Like I said, I think for me, just being a part of that match that we were talking about, was just special. It gave me an opportunity to really see two great wrestlers go at it.
Well, yeah, because again, you're the enforcer in that match. You're even wearing like a Mike Tyson t-shirt right now. And he the enforcer, say, in Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin, WrestleMania 14, the Fleet Center, like that match, no matter where you see the clips of, Mike Tyson's in those clips. No matter where you see clips of Austin versus Bret Hart, you're in those clips because of your involvement. And you know, usually referees don't get this amount of like tip of the hat to you, but to you being in there, handling it too, you get physical for a few minutes in that match, and you're thinking, damn, is this gonna go sideways? Like, what's happening here? Because you came from the UFC world. Was that a hard step? Like, okay, well, UFC, you're in a different world. You're fighting for your life. WWE, you're fighting for your life, but in a whole different manner.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it when it comes to wrestling. There's so much more involved in fighting. You know, when I went in there, you know, obviously you train hard months and months in advance to make sure that you're prepared to go in, especially at that championship level. And you go in there and you take care of business, man. And it's you and them, and it's whoever's the best guy. Wrestling isn't that, right? I mean, wrestling is a lot more challenging because there's a lot more that goes into being successful. When it comes to the physical part of it and the actual, you know, mano-a-mano, obviously fighting is much more difficult. But when it comes to actually being successful in wrestling, pro wrestling, there's a whole lot more that goes into it. I mean, obviously there's the physical part of it, which is a very small part of it. But then there's the, you know, being able to get the gift of gab. And then there's being able to actually live out whatever storyline it is that you have and be able to live it out to perfection so that people don't even think twice about whether or not it's real.
Oh yeah, and I don't think anyone would question your ability in the ring to make it look real. So, off the top of your head, how many referees do you think you belly to belly suplexed?
Oh, I can't count. I know. In one match, I think it was 4 times or something, 4 or 5 times, something like that. So, yeah, I did quite a bit of that.
I was gonna say 100, 200, 300. There's got to be a number up there. Like, I wonder if we could play a game where everyone takes a shot every time you give a referee a belly to belly. I think we'd be tipsy on the floor pretty quick because
yeah, that was my thing. That was my thing. No authority.
What were when you went backstage though? Did you ever walk up to the referees being like, "Hey man, sorry about that one," or did they say, "Hey Ken, dude, like, could you ease up a little bit?"
No way. These referees would come to me and say, bro, thanks, man. That was awesome. It's like, yeah, those are my referees.
Yeah, dude. You tossed them around like they were stuffed animals. It was unbelievable. Though, when you show up in the WWE, were there other pitches for you before the WrestleMania 13 enforcer involvement? Or there was an idea of like, we should try this or we should try that? Like, were there multiple versions of this?
No, basically, because like I said, I wasn't ingrained in it yet, you know.
Yeah.
So there was still a lot of learning for me to do. So going into that match, when they actually just presented it to me, they lined out what it is that I needed to do. But as the match got going, it wasn't even in my mind. I thought that I was in a real fight. Like, these guys were literally going after one another, and I was basically reffing this event. And so it wasn't like when I went into this that I had to pretend. I wasn't pretending because they weren't pretending. They were literally putting themselves in a fight. And so for me to ref that match and have those guys do what they did, it felt like I was where I needed to be. It wasn't hard for me at all.
Right. And again, you did a great job because over the years they've had guest enforcers, referees. I remember one year there was like a baseball umpire. There was, there's a few people who step in there and you're thinking like, is this the first time ever seeing this? What are they doing here? But you fit in perfectly because if there's a crossover between UFC and the WWE, I guess put the F back in, it was there. Though, right now in America, though, there is contention between Canadian fans and wrestling fans in America, in the world, over so many different things. But you went to Canada for an amazing event. It was you, Stone Cold, Legion of Doom, and Goldust versus Bret Hart and his family in this epic 5-on-5 match in Canada, a Canadian Stampede in your house. You've never seen it. It's unbelievable. What was it like going there and getting booed? Because you're a baby face at the time, and these fans, Bret Hart is their champion, their guy.
Yeah, it was see, you know, when you walk in there, especially on something that big, it isn't about babyface or heel, right? Especially when you walk in there, it's the noise, and that noise was deafening. I mean, it was deafening, and you just got excited and jacked up because it was so loud. And so you're not in your mind, you don't care. Like, you just know that they're into it. And it kind of jacks you up, and you really want to perform well. And that was a great match. I thought that, especially with that many people involved, we were able to pull it off, and I was just blessed to be a part of it.
It's again, it's one of those matches that if you watch the audience, they're standing up the whole time. No one is sitting down. No one's like, oh, this is okay. I'm going to the bathroom, get some chicken fingers. Like, no, we are here for this match. This is crazy. And people are going ballistic. Like, even Steve Austin, who's a red hot babyface in America, is getting booed out of the building in Canada because Bret Hart was their guy. And, what did Bret Hart mean to you? Because in today's world, people like CM Punk and other wrestlers still look up to Bret the Hitman Hart as this idol. Like, what did he mean to you in your career?
Well, Bret was the one that really helped me understand what I needed to do going into wrestling. And, he made it clear when I went up there and worked out with him that, I'm not a wrestler, that I'm an MMA specialist. I'm an MMA world champion. And that's why they brought me in. Wasn't to become a wrestler, was to come in and bring my style into pro wrestling. And so working with him and others there to help me kind of understand what was expected of me really helped me out going into it. And having my first match with Vader was awesome, because Vader himself was also a guy who competed. So I would say it was probably one of the best things that I could have done, was to have that match with him, because then I got a kind of a balance of what I needed to do and where I needed to be to go in and have these matches with guys like, Bret Hart and Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, all those guys, on where I needed to be. Because when I went against Vader, I thought that it was a great match, and it was, but I was also had some feedback that there were places that I needed to be more careful on, hence the broken nose. I didn't even know that, right? So it was good. Like I said, I was really, really blessed to be able to go in there and have that kind of education early on. And Bret was amazing, being able to help me understand the psychology of it and why I was being brought in.
Yeah, Bret Hart, still to this day, there's stories that still run rampant about the Montreal screw job. And one of them was he didn't want to lose to Shawn Michaels, but he pitched to lose to you. Did you ever have a conversation with him about this? Because that seems like a very logical step of, all right, Ken Shamrock's hot right now. Let's lose to him, so you can maybe, have a nice run.
Well, I think in Bret's mind also too was that, Bret's style is a lot like you would see from a guy coming from an MMA background. Like, he was all about the submissions, and his psychology was rough and tough. And it always had wrestling in his matches, not so much all the high flying, which is good. There's good mix, but he was just that down to earth kind of grappler, right? So, when he kind of pitched that, I think it kind of fit a great opportunity to run a program with him, because I truly believe, even with the small dose that me and him were able to have in the ring wrestling, I think we would have been able to put on a tremendous program and really help advance me to where I needed to be. Unfortunately, there were other plans and things happened, and then it caused a whole lot of chaos.
Yeah. We're still talking about it today. The chaos that happened in 1997 in November that year. You talk about grappling. I remember you hitting a nasty hurricanrana on people. At what point did you say, like, I think I'm going to try this? Because you obviously athletic, but you got to get up there to get some of these tall men. Like, where was that idea coming from?
Well, I just felt that everything that I was going to do in wrestling had to kind of match up with my image. And, like drop kicks were cool because they're still pretty aggressive. The Hurricanrana is perfect for being able to take people down, rather than a double leg or belly to belly, but another way to kind of throw somebody with your legs. And so I remember seeing someone do that, and I was like, I'm going to do it. So I just put it in there, never practiced it. I just did it. And the one thing that I understood that had to happen was that you had to get up and that you had to start your down motion before you started to pull them. Because if you started to pull them too soon, then you're going to jam your own head into the mat because you're pulling them down before you're ready to turn. So I just went and did it. I've been able to dunk a basketball. I knew that I had the hops to do it, and I could do a backflip. And so basically, that's all I was doing when I just did it, was just to jump up, scissor the head, and do a backflip. And that's how I did it.
You mentioned slamming basketball, slam dunk. Can you still do a slam dunk, Ken?
No, no. No. I don't even know if I can touch the rim anymore, but yeah, no.
No, I was wondering. I was like, wait a minute. I wonder if he can still do this. I feel like he can, but hey, man, that's
haven't touched the court for years, man. I don't even know if I can dribble a basketball. It's been that long.
We got to get you on the court then. We got to record this. We got to show the world what you can still do.
Yeah.
During this era, when you're there, it's a crossover between the new generation and the Attitude Era. And there's this famous video of Vince McMahon pretty much saying, like, yeah, we have been putting out bad storylines for a long time. We're going to change it, more attitude. And that's airs on television. Is there a meeting backstage about the same exact situation of saying, like, hey, we're going a different direction. We're going to go racier. We're going to go sexier. We're going to go more hardcore. Like, is that an actual conversation backstage?
Yeah, I think I do believe that it was definitely something that was pointed out to where this is the direction that we're going. And there was a concerted effort to do that. But it was more about trying to defy authority, especially bad authority. And so a lot of the storylines were cut that way, especially with the way that, you had the Vince McMahon authority, but it was bad. Like he was ruling like a dictator. And then you had the golden goose, or the person that was going to fight for justice. And that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then it was, of course, Rock, and Shawn Michaels was kind of part of the Vince thing. So there was a concerted effort to kind of go that direction. But for whatever reason, it turned into the Attitude Era.
Do you feel like there's a moment where we decided to go a little too far one way? Like, for example, choppy PP, they're going to chop off Val Venus's, dick, Godfather giving away hose to wrestlers, Undertaker cutting Mideon's wrists and blood are coming out to sacrifice him. Like, is there a moment for you personally watching this going, like, looking at you guys, the guys, like, what are we doing here? Like, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah, I had conversations with programs that I was asked to do, and I didn't do them, and I think that was part of the issues that maybe I started to kind of go down a little bit when I started out so hot. Things were moving up, and then there was kind of other programs that I was asked to do that I wouldn't do them. I just felt like it wasn't healthy for me or my family.
Right. I think you're discussing the Ryan Shamrock situation there. And I think it's, very, because there've been storylines after that where it's like, oh, we're brother and sister, but we might be in love with each other. Like, this is not your storyline. Someone else's, Kaylee Burchill and Paul Burchill, way later on. It's like, what is that? Is this good television? Is this good television? I don't know, but I guess ratings did well, but at the same time, while you're there, like, other wrestlers discussing the same things with you, going like, hey man, I have a wife or I have kids at home, and they're looking at me going, what do you, hey, I know you're paying the bills, but can you not do this? Is there a point in your mind that says that to other wrestlers?
No, I don't think there's a conversation. I think that, when you're going through it, you're looking after yourself, right? And you have to. I think every individual, a wrestler, or even the company, everybody has things that they think that they want to do, and they want to implement those things. But at the same time, we're all individuals, and we have to be able to protect our morals and our values at the same time, and we should be able to do that without having any repercussions. You just move on and get somebody else or have somebody else do it. That's cool too. But yeah, no one really kind of came together like a union and said, oh, we're not doing this. It was almost like everybody was kind of making their own decisions on what they would or would not do.
Who did you drive to towns with? Like, are you driving by yourself? Are you driving with somebody else? Like, are you having just, did you have like friends? Cause I know Jeff Jarrett even said, if he could count on his hand how many actually real friends he has in the wrestling business, it'd be with one hand. For you personally, were there friends being made, or these are just acquaintances at work?
No, I think there's friends being, man. I used to travel with Road Dogg, Billy Gunn. Obviously there was, other people that I had drove with off and on. I know my very first person was Pillman, and I rode with him at least once or twice because I had the car, and usually people kind of rode with me. And Billy Gunn was another one that I rode with. But yeah, and Steve Blackman was also a regular. Me and him rode together also at times. But most of the time I would go, not most of the time, I'd say 50% of the time I would be by myself.
Did you prefer to be by yourself?
It's not like a preferred thing. I think it's just kind of convenience. Obviously, a lot of people like to drive overnight from one show to another. I like to get my rest, get up, train, and drive. So yeah, it just depended on, sometimes it was convenient and sometimes it wasn't. So, but again, like I said, anybody that I rode with, I never had issues with anybody. We always got along.
It's amazing to hear that you drove with Brian Pillman a few times because, what we only saw was this loose cannon character. Personally, what was he like to you? Was he always acting like the loose cannon, or did he have like he would bring that down while he's with you in a car driving, hours?
Yeah, no, he was chill. I mean, like I said, he just I drove. So and I was new to the business, so I would drive and he slept. So it was again convenience.
He's like, cool, I got a chauffeur and I can sleep in the back. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He's one of those characters that, like, I think people should study. He had such a brief moment of that loose cannon, but there are such glimpses of a genius inside that. And his son, Lexus King, now in NXT, is in the business. So he's doing well for himself as well. And as we brought up earlier, WrestleMania season is here. And WrestleMania 14, you have Shawn Michaels versus Steve Austin. You have Undertaker versus Kane. But then you have a match, I believe, stole the show. It's yours, you versus The Rock for the Intercontinental title. Personally, for you, what did that match mean to you? Because when you come backstage, are people waiting for you? Because again, that was a show stealer.
Yeah, I vaguely remember a lot that went on. I do remember that there was an effort to make sure that people let us know that, boy, that was unbelievable. And it was appreciated. And me and The Rock, I thought, really kind of sharpened each other to really move to the next level. Unfortunately, I didn't. He did, and I was happy for him. But unfortunately, it didn't move me other than some other stuff, and it just didn't make sense to me. So, but that match, again, like I said, it just kind of showed you the ability, not only that Rock had, that I had, to be able to do shows. Because I mean, I worked with Shawn Michaels, I worked with Bret Hart, and was able to put on really great matches, and they weren't real programs, so we weren't really telling a story or anything, just to kind of put us in there to see how it would work. And every time that I would get in with those guys, they were good matches, which is saying something, since there's no programs or anything being done. They're just trying to figure out whether or not there's chemistry there. And every one of them, even with The Undertaker, every single one of them, and they were different types of wrestlers, I was able to adapt to. But unfortunately, it just never amounted to anything.
Right. Yeah, that is unfortunate because, this match from 14 is one of the, top Intercontinental Championship matches in WrestleMania history. And then you said your Rock moves up, you stay kind of in the same lane, because a year from that point on, WrestleMania 15, you're back in the IC Championship match. So you personally feel like, was it you saying no to the Ryan Shamrock storyline, you feel like, that kept you in the same lane? Or was it just they didn't know what to do with an MMA style wrestler now that we have pimps and, you know, porn stars?
Yeah, I just think that the when they first brought me in, it was, you know, there was an idea. And that idea really took off with the Attitude Era, you know, just being more aggressive, more in your face, more defiant, and have an attitude. And I think it kind of, when it took off, there was this plan to do a certain thing for, per se, like Goldberg, right? Like there's a plan. But as it started to take off, they realized that all this other stuff, like the Generation X and all this other stuff, started to be sell more tickets. It started to be more valuable to them than this fighter that they brought in to try to build into to a superstar. And so all these other things started to take place as they were moving in that direction without ever having to change that attitude type theme they had, and be able to get, I guess, more people, at least from what I understand, being able to get, because it was huge. I mean, everywhere we went was sold out. To get more people involved in it, bringing more of the mainstream people into pro wrestling where they would think it was cool.
Yeah, I see your point there. It's just weird because sometimes you'd watch an episode of Raw saying 98, 99. On the bottom of the screen, they would actually advertise UFC pay-per-views. There must have been some sort of crossover deal. I'm thinking, well, Ken Shamrock is very famous for that, and yet we're promoting a pay-per-view for UFC, but we don't have Ken Shamrock featured on our television programs in high quality, you know, storylines, because you're the tag team champion, you're the Intercontinental champion, you win the King of the Ring. Like, there's a lot of things you did do, but like there's a different level, I guess, of them putting you forward versus you staying where you were. And I think, again, you think one thing, I think you had an amazing career, dominating force. You beat up Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart when no one was beating up Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels on television. You know, that's, to me, is one of those things where you're like, wow, these wrestlers trusted you, because out of all the other people, they're like, I'm not losing to so-and-so. I'm not losing to so-and-so. Oh, Ken Shamrock? Yeah, I'll lose to him. Like that's got to feel pretty good to know that these wrestlers who hate each other, Bret and Shawn, actually love you because of your work.
Well, and I think a lot of it had to do too is that when you're in pro wrestling, you want people to know that, listen, you know, we're athletes and we're tough too. So for them to be able to get in the ring with me and be able to put on a match and show their toughness, that's a medal. And it shows to all their fan base that, hey, listen, I'm not just, you know, able to do storylines. I can get in here and I can get it on too.
Well, they used to have those black and white videos featuring you and Mark Merrow and Undertaker, where it would actually promote your background of what you were before you became a wrestler, like Mark Merrow, Golden Box winner, you UFC champion, Ultimate Fighter, and they were beautifully done, like black and white, and they were in these weird warehouses. Like, do you remember this? Do you remember that shoot?
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
yeah.
How was that pitched to you? Because again, that sounds like one of the best ideas ever. Like, oh, well, we have wrestlers that actually are amazing athletes. Like, we should promote this. Like, how is this pitched? Like, how long was this shoot? What was it like?
Yeah, I didn't really get an idea what they were shooting, but they wanted us more in our environment, so that they could kind of pitch that kind of into a storyline that people are following real fighters, right? So hang on a second, because
Someone's calling you?
no, I've got my charger on here because my phone died last night. And
yes, I hear my phone constantly dies, so I hear you. There we go.
All right, there we go.
But,
yeah, so it was just that whole entrance or that footage that they were shooting, trying to put us in our environment, like Merrill with boxing, me with MMA. It was really trying to educate the fan base of our backgrounds.
Now, before we wrap this up, do you remember the time it was called the Raging Party, and it was before WrestleMania 15, and it was at a clubhouse at like 1 a.m, and it's on television, and you're there with like The Rock and Vince McMahon and everybody, and it is a party. Like, people are going crazy for this event. What was that atmosphere like, if you remember it? Because it, as someone watching it on television, like, wow, like these guys must be partying like crazy tonight.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that.
It must have been a good time.
So yeah, I really don't remember that.
Isaac Hayes was there singing. It was just like a concert. It was a rock and roll club concert, and you were there. So obviously, you must have had a really good time.
Well, we weren't wrestling though, right?
No, you were there. It was like a promoting WrestleMania through a party club atmosphere.
I do remember that because it was like a concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so funny. You can't find it anywhere. And if you find it on YouTube, please send me a link because
I remember that too. Yes.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
It was, and I even to this day I don't understand why. But hey,
it was selling tickets and it was making money and it was promoting WrestleMania. That's what it was about.
You want to talk? Nothing ever happened, but when you look at the concept and the idea of that, of putting professional wrestlers in the middle of a party with alcohol and other things and women and men, that's a recipe for problem.
Could you elaborate on the problems that happened that night?
Nothing ever. Well, that's what I'm saying, which was almost amazing that nothing happened. Like literally that whole night, even through that whole thing with that kind of an environment, even when you don't have them there, there's always somebody fighting. Somebody's always getting over a girl or a guy or something breaks out. But that night never did, man. So it was amazing.
Wow. The first time ever wrestlers didn't get in a fight over something.
Yeah.
In the atmosphere, you'd think, yes, something is bad going to happen here tonight. Yeah.
Right.
I wish they sold that. They never sold it like on DVD or the VHS tapes or anything like that. Before I wrap this up though, you've worked with so many wrestlers and unfortunately so many have passed away over the years. Like, do you have a Owen Hart prank that he pulled on you that you could share with us?
Oh, I would say we were, and I've said this one before. We were at a small event. It wasn't a TV show or a taped show. And I remember we went into there were smaller locker rooms. There was multiple of them. And so we were in a smaller one. We had 2 or 3 people in the room. And the doors, I mean, it was like an old building and the doors were hard to open. He had the turn handle doors with the round knobs. And they were hard. You had to really turn them to open them. And they would squeak when you open them. And so I remember we were in there. And so Owen Hart came in and he said, "Hey, what's going on?" I think it was me and Steve Blackman. I'm not sure, but I thought it was me and Steve were in this one room, and it was a smaller room. And so Owen came in and started talking to us, and then he kind of left. And it was kind of weird. Like, well, he comes on, say, walk in here and say something to us. So I remember as I started to leave, because I usually went into the ring and rolled around, and Blackman came in sometimes with me. And so as I go to get out, I remember grabbing the handle and going to turn it, and my hand slipped off. And I remember when I grabbed it, it was like wet and gooey. And I remember it's just like turned. I was like, "Oh, what is that? Like, what is?" Of course, it didn't register me for another couple minutes of like, I can't open the door because there's Vaseline all over and it's slick as snot. And I can't grab it hard enough to turn the door. So we had to go get a towel, like in our bag, dry everything off and be able to try to open that door. And of course, Owen, when we came up to try to confront him on it, he just kind of looked at me. He's like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Oh, okay. You're gonna play that."
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. One final question. So you are going into the Hall of Fame next weekend?
No.
Thought I got you.
No, seriously, that's honest. They've never, other than inviting me to WrestleMania last year, that was it. So it is, again, like I said, I'm in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, I'm in the MMA Hall of Fame, UFC Hall of Fame, San Diego. I'm in a lot of Hall of Fames, and I'm so grateful. So this is going to happen whenever it happens. The one thing I understand is that the world judges people, and those judgments aren't necessarily right a lot of times. They just the way it is. And, when you've got these organizations like a UFC or like a WWF, like NFL, you're always going to have things happen where fan bases are saying, man, why isn't he in there when this guy got in there? And it's like, there's no understanding because it's not done on a computer and it's not done, in a way where people can understand it. It's done behind doors, and there are human beings that are making these decisions. And a lot of times when these human beings are making these decisions, if you're not in their sights or in their minds, you're out of sight and you're not thought of. And so it's not like they're targeting me or they're out to get me. It's just that a lot of times, man, people just don't see the importance of the guys that had done it years and years and years ago.
Well, without you, we wouldn't have people like Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar in the business, realizing that MMA wrestlers can transition over. You're the first, and you won't be the last, obviously, but I hope that you're lying to me somehow and you're going into the Hall of Fame. If it's not this weekend, it's going to happen. Either way, I think you're one of the greatest of all time. So thank you so much for your contributions in the world. And, for me personally, what part of your career I keep saying it, but what part are you most proud of your entire life, your career, UFC, WWE? What is the thing that you stick out in your mind? Like, I'm so proud of this.
I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to make 30% of the fan base not happy with me, but it's just, if you're asking me what my best accomplishment is, and if people know my background, I came out of a group home. I had been on the street and gotten stabbed, got locked up, and got adopted by my father, who was running the group home, and my mother, Dee Dee, who was his wife. And that was an awesome thing for me to be able to do, because it gave me an opportunity at life. But that's not the greatest thing. The greatest thing was I was able to find Jesus, and to be able to help me understand what kind of person I can be. And so I would say that is the greatest accomplishment for me personally.
Well, there you go. No one's angry on this side of the table. So thank you so much, though, for your contributions to the world and everything you've done. And I always appreciate. I think this is the 5th time I've interviewed you, and every time it's a good time. So thank you again for being here on 10 Count Media. I'm Steve Fall. He's the most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock. Damn it, put him in the Hall of Fame. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.